So last episode, or more than last episode ago, we started our documentary deep dive on the Discovery documentary called Implosion The Titan Sub Disaster. This is a documentary that was breaking down the Titan submersible. For those who don't remember, you guys remember back in the day, that submersible with the billionaire? You remember that? So apparently y'all, that story had so much more to it than what we were told at the time. And so Discovery did a documentary on it, and we started our doc deep dive, I think a few episodes ago. And let's finish it out because y'all, when I watched this documentary, I was just so taken aback by just how avoidable this whole situation was. And that is, I think, the message that you get from watching this documentary is that this submersible, the Titan sub implosion, didn't have to happen. It was completely avoidable. And you know what? Some people might say that this was a case of negligence. So let's get into it. We ended off with basically me introducing the first major red flag that you find out when you start watching this documentary, and that is the material that this submersible was made out of. I talked about how this material was made out of carbon fiber. Sorry, guys. And basically, this material is great until it gets to its breaking point, and it is known to fail catastrophically. So off rip, that was the first big red flag when you're watching this documentary. You mean to tell me you basically made a submersible out of like plastic, essentially? So in this documentary, we get to find out about Stockton Rush. Stockton Rush was the billionaire who owned the Titan submersible that was owned by the company OceanGate. And this was his company. And basically, Stockton Rush, he was a billionaire. He was wealthy from birth. He inherited his wealth. And this dude is a connected dude, okay? His father was the president-elect of the Bohemian Club. This is for my conspiracy theory people. Y'all know about the Bohemian Grove? That's where all, supposedly, according to conspiracy theories, that all of the rich and elite and wealthy people go to do their little creepy, weird rituals where they be wearing them eyes wide shut masks. Yeah. So his father was the president-elect of that place. Like, that's deep. That's deep. And if I'm not mistaken, his grandmother, I believe, has a symphony hall named after her in San Francisco, y'all. A symphony hall. He was wealthy on both sides, both from his dad and his father's side. This is an old money dude, right? And so he had this obsession with space. He wanted to be an astronaut. Long story short, after going to Harvard, after getting his Ivy League degree, he realized that he couldn't be an astronaut. And so he decided, or he thought to himself, everything I'm looking for out in space, I can find in the ocean. And that's what began his obsession with the ocean. And so he decided to create his company called OceanGate. That was the company that owned the submersible. And his business plan essentially was that he was going to it was going to be a luxury service because it cost a lot of money to get up on this submersible. He was going to take luxury clients on that submersible down and do deep explorations down into the ocean. And basically you would pay, a fat ass sum. I'm trying to remember how much, when I say fat ass sum, I'm talking like tens of thousands of dollars. This wasn't like a $3,000 thing. There's like 50 some thousand dollars you might be paying to go down on this submersible. So essentially you pay a fat ass sum and then he takes you down to explore the depths of the ocean. Right? And he decided that his first trip that he was going to advertise selling his his service was down to the Titanic. Okay, so he was like, that's gonna be the first one. That's how I'm gonna get all these eyes on my project, and that's how I'm gonna get people interested in this. I'm gonna go down to the Titanic. So understand, this man never really had any, nothing really, no connection to the Titanic. To him, it was purely a business deal. It was purely to make this. It was purely to give his business venture like a little bit of edge, make people interested. Because of course, who wouldn't want to go down to explore the Titanic if that's your thing? I personally wouldn't, but hey, what you gonna do, okay? So he decides that, all right, my, not maiden voyage, but, the first voyage that I'm going to be advertising is this voyage down to the Titanic. But in order to do that, he had to get the Titanic. He had to get the voyage going. He had to, make sure it was safe, make sure it was doable. And so we find out, y'all, we find out that the Titan submersible did 90 dives. Out of those 90 dives, only 13 successfully made it down to the depths of the Titanic. And when I say successfully made it to the depths, notice I said made it down to the depths. I didn't say made it to the Titanic, because there were, of those 13, some of those descents they abandoned when they got just to the depth. They didn't actually make it to the Titanic. And so 90 dives, only 13 were successful. OceanGate had a director of engineering named Tony Nissen. And this is how the documentary opened, with Tony Nissen, and this is what he had to say.
The definition of an accident is something that happened unexpectedly and by sheer chance. There was nothing unexpected about this. This was expected by everybody that had access to a little bit of information. And I think that if it wasn't an accident, it then has to be some degree of crime.
Okay, that's how they open this documentary. So off rip that essentially this guy knew that what he was doing was doomed to fail. And that man, Tony Nissen, he was the director of engineering for OceanGate. And after the 47th dive, so he went on the 47th dive. After that 47th dive, the hull of the Titan submersible came back with cracks in it, okay? And after it came back with cracks in it, Tony Nissen said to Stockton Rush, the billionaire owner, he was like, hey dog, this has cracks in it. We gotta abandon this. We gotta move on. Like, this is not, we gotta figure something out. And so what do you think happened? Do you think Stockton Rush listened to him and decided to make changes? No, he fired him. And this is a theme that you see throughout this documentary. There are multiple people who came forward to let him know that what was happening was dangerous. And instead of him heeding their warning, he fired these people. He fired them, which is why Tony Nissen, fast forward. And by the way, that clip that you just heard was a clip of him testifying before Congress, because there is an investigation into this whole situation. And that was a clip of him testifying. And that's what he had to say. That this was, he said that basically we could consider this a crime, not just a tragic accident. All right.